absent today, so bear with me. If you would please rise and join me in the pledge of allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Get that out of the way, get the glasses. On the agenda, it says we'll approve the minutes from our last meeting. We had some technical difficulties that's been tabled. The motion to table that would be fine.
So moved.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Table in the minutes of September 16th.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next is the big thing. County general claims, $192,760.56. I went through these and the amount adds up the same. Entertain a motion.
I will move that we approve the county general claims in the amount that you specified.
All right, have a motion, I'll second. 192,760.56, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. County highway, an amount of $622,246.31. Looks like most of it's just materials and Reese Riley done some work for us.
I will make a motion that we approve the county road claims in the amount of $622,246.31.
I'll second that motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Let's see, other claims, an amount of $123,368.77. Morning, Ted. Good morning.
Well, I move that we approve the other claims and the amount of $123,368.77.
I have a motion, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Payroll claim. Period ending 9/7/19, an amount of $208,532.08. Double check, make sure that it did or didn't, I looked at it. I don't think it jumps off the paper on it. That is the same.
I will move that we approve payroll claims dated 9/7/2019.
Have a motion, second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes to pay payroll for 9/7. Sorry about that. They love getting paid. And we have another payroll claim of 9/21, an amount of $190,376.95, and they do match one.
Okay. Then I will make a motion that we approve payroll claims dated 9/21/19.
Have a motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. And, early claims, an amount of $14,730.26. And that one does match.
And I will move that we approve the early claims in the amount of $14,740.26.
Got a motion, I'll second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. And last, early claim again, an amount of $10,074.89, and it does match.
And I will make a motion that we approve the other early claims in the amount of $10,074.89.
Have a motion, I'll second that motion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. being a new guy. Enterprise Fleet Management, Aaron Stoner, did I pronounce that
sir.
right? Good morning.
Got it. Good morning. Thank you for having me out. I'll try to make up that minute. We'll do what we can here. I brought a couple of packages to talk through.
You're on TV.
Keep one for yourself.
You're right. It's up to you.
So I am with the Fleet Management Division of Enterprise. Most folks understand Enterprise Rent-A-Car. Most folks have rented a car when they needed one. What my division actually does is takes the same concepts that have made that division of our company profitable and applied those to different cities and counties and companies all over the state. So over the past 8 or 9 years, I've gotten an opportunity to come out and talk to local government officials about what we're able to do and consulting the appropriate ways to utilize vehicles. And so on that first page, I decided to include some different local references. Obviously, the big name there is Purdue University, is probably my largest client. We also work with Hendricks County, Cass County, City of Kokomo, a number of other cities and counties all over the state. And if you want to flip to the second page, what we've seen as we come out, I should back up a little bit. What I've been provided is a fleet list from the county. And so what I do with that is I take a look at where the different, how the different vehicles are being used across the county. You know, what the model year is, what the odometer is, what type of vehicles are being used. And I take that and I try to glean some different information on what we can do to help. And so typically what I've seen across the state is that, you know, budgets are tight, there's not a lot of money for vehicle replacement, and typically when focused on the budget, the vast majority of the focus is on the capital budget, obviously focusing on what we can do in that year coming ahead, so coming up here into 2020. What we found though is that, especially coming out of 08, 09, 2010, you know, folks are buying vehicles, paying cash for them in most cases, hanging on to those vehicles, and so the average age of vehicles ends up being 10, 12 years old. So if you've got vehicles that are 15, 20 years old that are out there on the road, a lot of the dollars that are being spent on the fleet are actually on the operating side. And so what we've seen is the majority of the costs that cities and counties are running into is not on where most of the focus is, which is that capital budget and working up till setting the budget for, say, 2020, but actually in the dollars and fuel and in maintenance that are kind of slipping out the back door. So what we do is we take the concept of buying the vehicle at the right time, using our resources to identify what the right time to sell that vehicle is, and trying to keep the lowest total cost of ownership, as low as possible going forward. So that's what we do on the rental side. That's how we're profitable. In some cases on that side of the business, we're selling vehicles for more than we bought them for, just because we buy them effectively with volume, and we sell them, with our experts who hand sell those vehicles the best they can. Well, municipalities can work the same way. You guys have government incentives in place. You already have a great buy. What we do is we ask you to, use our concepts, our technology to identify getting out of the vehicle when you can still get good money for it. The general public will pay great money for those vehicles, and you're not incurring all that extra expense and operating costs. And so what that looks like is, if you want to flip to the third page there, the open-ended lease structure, what I'm showing you here, a lot of times people see the word lease, and that can be a scary word because you think of over mileage and wear and tear and all those different things. Ours works very much the opposite. We have no over mileage, no wear and tear. The example I'm showing you here is that if you look at that red arrow, your vehicle price, say you go buy a pickup truck, you go buy that vehicle price is $25,000. Eventually, the way cities and counties typically are operating is you're going to get a few thousand for that vehicle if you sell it when it's 15 years old. What we ask you to do is, let's find what that right time is, and in this case I'm showing 5 years, 50,000 miles. We're going to write that down to say $5,000 and use that $5,000 as a cash flow tool, so you're only financing 20. Well, at the end of that period, that vehicle's worth $17,500. So now you've created $12,500 in equity that comes back to the county at the end of that lease term. So that can then go towards offsetting that new lease. So basically you have that 12,500 as an equity buffer to where you're not, you know, if you bring it back a little dinged up, a little over mileage, you're cutting into the 12.5. You know, you're not cutting a check at the end of the term. So that's one example of the lease structure. But I'm gonna get into the profile of what I saw for the county. So if you flip to that fourth page there, that's the fleet profile. So basically what I did is I took all the different light duty vehicles across the fleet. 32 came into play. You know, you're gonna see some different cars, some SUVs, quite a few pickup trucks. The average age is right about what I've seen with some of these other counties I've talked to. 9.9 years, or about 10 years is kind of your average vehicle. So your annual mileage is about 8,000, that's about right. So what I do when I see that is I say, okay, let's take a step towards getting this fleet into a little bit more of an efficient state. So in that first year, I'm recommending getting rid of any vehicles that are over 10 years old and over 100,000 miles. So 16 of the 32 vehicles actually fell into that category. And then basically we tighten it up from there. You can see in the replacement criteria, the next year we go 8 and 80,000 and so on and so forth. So essentially over a 5-year period of time, we're gonna be able to turn this fleet over and be in a place where we're just doing routine oil changes versus, you know, the heavier type of repair. So that all sounds good, but it's gotta make financial sense, which is what this next analysis will show. So this next analysis, the last page, fleet planning analysis, that essentially shows what you're doing
Can
now
you sit here?
versus what we would recommend,
You're right in front
and
of
how
the
this
camera.
would work over a long period of time.
Yeah. Unless you
So
want
if
your
you look
head.
at the
you want me to see it
highlighted
so you
yellow
can
line
see?
there,
So the camera can.
what
That'd be
that's,
50
what
cents,
that's
please.
attempting to show is sort of what you all are spending on the fleet today. So by looking at the model year in the fleet, we can tell that you're buying about 2 vehicles per year. If you go out and take cash for those vehicles, that's gonna cost you about $50,000, or $48,986.
It'll be you don't want
We
your
use some
head
different
on
industry
YouTube.
numbers for maintenance. You know, figure some routine service, but also understanding the age of these vehicles, you're gonna get into some non-preventative repair as well. We're benchmarking that at about 54,000. We figure if you're buying 2 vehicles, you're probably selling 2 vehicles. So we're crediting back $2,000 there. And then fuel, we just figure price at the pump, with your average miles per gallon of 10 miles per gallon, knowing a lot of these vehicles are pickup trucks, probably some idling going on, different things like that, of about 59,000. So your all-in fleet budget's 160 grand. So that's sort of the number we work off of. So in that first year, I recommended replacing 16 vehicles and putting them on this open-ended equity lease structure. So instead of paying cash for 2, we're gonna replace 16, and we can do that for the 79,000. So we're coming in just under 80,000, but the benefit there is that now we're getting rid of those vehicles that are causing you major issues. So you're trading the repairs for preventative maintenance. So in that first year, you're gonna get a maintenance benefit of just over 20 grand. We're still gonna sell the 16, and I'm being very conservative and saying we're only gonna get $16,000 out of those 16 vehicles just based on their age and mileage. Then we're also gonna get a benefit in fuel economy of the 48,000. So in that first year, we're gonna net a benefit of $15,000, and we replace half the fleet. So you obviously get a benefit there, but over time, we continue to play this out. Your lease dollars are going to go up, and what you're gonna spend with us, and that eventually caps right around 158,000. But your maintenance is gonna consistently fall, your fuel is gonna consistently fall. And then the big benefit is if you look at the end of year 4, vehicles are gonna start coming to term, and you're gonna start benefiting from that equity that I described in our lease structure. So you're gonna have $64,000 coming back at the end of year 4 from that first group of vehicles that are gonna get turned over. You can reinvest that back in the fleet and just lower that payment, or you can take that back as a check. But bottom line is, over a 10-year period of time, we can save the county over $250,000 while also operating a drastically more efficient fleet, and hopefully put some time back in your department head's day so they can focus on what they do, what's core to their business and their department, and we can focus on handling the fleet. And this is an initial analysis, but what we do is meet with you typically quarterly, help you plan as the budget year comes, make adjustments throughout, so that you're always in the best place as it relates to vehicles. So that was a lot of me talking, and kind of running through that analysis quickly, because I know you guys have an agenda here, but do you all have any questions about that? I think we've got a great opportunity to help the county.
Would you allow to put our plows and stuff on them like that, or you furnish the plows on them?
Yeah, actually, we get involved. St. Joseph County would be a good example there. They're actually my first government client about 5-6 years ago, and we actually kind of did our bid process for them, and we actually drove their plow price down a couple $1,000 because we just have a network of folks we've used. We will price that out, and we'll deliver those things work ready for you, so that you guys don't have to go around quoting, and you don't have to go around coordinating the aftermarket.
And those are our specs.
Absolutely. With all of this, we're gonna provide the cost components of what's happening here. We'll compare different, makes and models, whatever you'd like to see. Ultimately, you make the decision. We're not gonna tell you to go to Ford if you want a Chevy or vice versa. That's really your decision completely.
And what about the sheriff's cars? They get tore up, they get tore up just putting in the lights and the equipment.
Definitely. So they're not included in this analysis. We can help with pursuit vehicles, but typically what I like to do is focus on this group initially, because typically the sheriff's gonna have a little bit more of a plan than this group of vehicles has, and their age is gonna be a little bit younger. And so down the line, I think I'd like to dive into an analysis for those vehicles, but this initial step would not include that group unless you guys wanted to include them.
Well, you got it here on the fleet replacement worksheet on the back, that's why I'm asking.
I may have included some light duty, but I don't think I included any of the pursuit.
I think you included every one.
I guess I'd wanna probably take a better look at those Impalas then and change it. If the Impalas are pursuit vehicles, I didn't know those were pursuit vehicles. I'd wanna take a look at that and probably pull that out, because those vehicles are gonna be treated a little bit differently. They're probably gonna put more mileage on an annual basis as well, and I'd wanna depreciate the vehicles differently to make sure that we're in a good place.
We replace the 3 every year.
Okay. Yeah, and so to your point, if you do 3 a year, that's probably not gonna drastically change with us. We might just put some financing in place that allows you to have a little less cash out of pocket, versus paying cash for the vehicles. But that's, again, I'll separate that out, because I wanna look at it a little bit differently.
All of you think about having new vehicles every other year in the fleet?
I'd have to get more information on, see where we're at. I don't have an opinion right at the moment, but I'd wanna see what you're talking about, what you're looking at. Because right now, we work under the state's purchasing plan,
Right.
and work with W.A. Jones on that, and we're getting a very good discount on the trucks that we are buying right now. So I'd wanna kinda look at that a little more carefully, but I'm willing to look at it, just need more information.
It looks like most of it would be on your end. We got EMS vehicle, and you got the health department, coroner, and, so.
And we actually, it's funny you mentioned W.A. Jones, because Denny McIntyre is who I worked with the St. Joseph County operation. He's familiar with the program, he can speak to it, but I'd be more than happy to talk in a little more detail too. Obviously in a public setting, it's hard to hit all the points of the program, but wanted to give you a high level
You're
idea.
more willing to talk to him, Paul, if you want to see, if we can save us some money somewhere.
Anytime we save something, it's worth it.
Right.
Do you have an extra one of these? that you
Yeah,
have?
well, I've got my copy, I've got everything on the computer. I'll give you,
Okay.
my card or copy, and I can send you.
I can.
You can have mine.
Okay.
I have some over here.
Typically, what I like to do from here is, this is just me looking at numbers and data on a page. What I typically like to do, if you guys are comfortable with this, is talk to the specific department heads, talk a little bit about their needs, and make some adjustments based on that conversation. They know their vehicles better than I do, I just see what's on a page, and I just wanna kind of hone in on that.
Well, it wouldn't happen next year, the year after for budget time. department heads wanna talk to her, please do, see if you can save money or not, see if we can do this. Use that for.
Oh, I like the idea, we can
Have a-
rotate our fleet more frequently.
Right.
Keep things under warranty, so we don't have the elements out of our pocket maintenance.
I'm curious, if with, the fleet being newer vehicles, sounds like quite a bit, your newer vehicles, how will that affect insurance rates?
So the replacement rate of insurance obviously is gonna be higher because the vehicles are gonna be worth more, but there's also an offset there to where some of the vehicles are 15, 20 years old. They're just not safe vehicles. They don't have, you know, the airbags and even anti-lock brakes and that kind of thing. So I've heard, you know, I'd obviously talk to your insurance folks, but I've heard that it's a bit of a offset there. It can kind of go both ways.
Well, I think it's important to consider that.
Right.
Yep.
Alright, anybody else got comments for Aaron? Thank you, sir.
Thanks very much for the time. Appreciate it.
You ready, young lady?
Are you ready?
I don't know.
Do you want a copy of a little bit, well, that's not gonna work. Cause that was from last year.
Okay.
Right, but that's what we presented earlier in the year, and that's what,
That's what you wanna go off of?
well,
Well,
no,
it
but that's
doesn't
what
matter.
they had, I
You're
mean,
the
we
director
didn't have
out there. You
anything
tell us
else.
what they need to do. You're out there every day.
Do we need to turn that on?
You want me to
But
show this
I'll get
one?
Jack to do it. Hey, Jack, turn it
Oh, but then,
on. Okay, then don't do it. You don't think it's?
Yeah, I've seen the one before.
Excuse me.
You've seen a copy of that already?
Well, I think, the EMS had the same kind of contract.
For waste management?
Yeah. You remember that?
No.
I don't know. Doug, was waste management the contract that you also had?
Yeah, we have one in place just for the Delphi drive.
Yes.
Do they raise your rates?
Yes, they do all the time. I think, Ted, that's the same thing I talked to you about earlier
Yeah.
about them.
Getting a.
So how do you
there's
do your
a
budget? How do you plan
90-day,
for that?
Notice to terminate, can be
I'd like to too.
no longer than 180 days prior, no less than 90 days prior to the in the current term, which would be 2021. So we just need to mark our calendars to be able to hit that notice period. But the other thing that's in the contract is there's a right of first refusal. We have to get our ducks in a row to have, if we want to have another contractor take over both places, they have a right to match that, so it would be another contractor in competition with the same company. They would have, Waste Management would have the right to come in and match their offer, but we should attempt to solicit some other proposals, or at least your other proposal. Sometime, and the EMS one was, is a 2021, I think, isn't it, Doug?
Ours
Is it 2021 also?
21, yeah.
21?
I think it says it on there. Ours is not, or mine's 20, I thought it was 2021.
It's 21, yeah. And yours is
I'm
21?
pretty sure it is, yeah. I'd have to look
Okay,
for sure.
so, I think, I don't know who was I think it was maybe Tom was auditor, I'm not sure. Supposed to mark our calendars to make sure we do not miss, that time period on notifying, so we can do a reset or something instead of what we've got, because it's a very one-sided contract. And I heard that that's true with Waste Management. This- with the commercial ones or municipalities and so forth, so that's kind of an aside to what they're doing it. I think we're stuck with it now,
Yeah,
and they have the right to increase it. They've done all
They did.
kinds of, yeah.
They did.
every year they have been
Yeah.
increasing it.
If they don't get as much for their recyclables, do they take recyclables?
They do, not from me, but yes, they do. from
Well,
other-
that, they get to, raise their compensation if they get less for the recyclables, so they've got everything covered in it. So it's, and that may be the market, you know, I don't know, that we face, but at least we need to be able to, give the board a chance to go another route by giving the notice to terminate and coming up with some other options before it's too late to do something about it. It automatically renews for another 5 years if you don't, that's canceled.
I think that's what happened.
When's the date on that?
It's July 12, 2016. So you wanna go 180 days, 180 days before then, between 180 days and 90 days prior to, that date. So that's gonna be sometime in, you know, late 2020, early 2021. That's what you indicate? That's all I had. I looked at it this morning.
Let's make sure we get that marked down somewhere, so we remember to do that.
Put it on your calendar also.
So you're wanting, we need to change our rates. I know that because since they raised their rates, we've gotta raise our rates.
Unless you put a scale in, and if you put a scale in, your rates are gonna be obviously lower with the scale than you are doing it the way we have done it in the past.
Right, cause right now we're just estimating.
Right. So I guess it'd be better to know which way you're gonna proceed. If you're gonna proceed with the scale, then you change rates once, and then you can fluctuate that every year. If you proceed without a scale, and we continue with waste management, then it looks like every year you're gonna have to raise the rates.
Alright. Well, since we're already too far in the budget, we're not able to do the scales until 2021. So we're gonna have to raise our rates, my understanding. What do you think, Lauren?
Then we gotta pay for scale, so.
Yeah. Then we'll have to come up with a way to
I would be
pay
able
for
to adjust
scales.
the rates for a while. Then you can hold them steady after that.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Ever since I sat on council, I said we needed a scale out there, but we just never could come up with the money to get it. They're like, well, $80,000 for a set of scales for you to drive on and dump and come out with.
I got a quote for like 22.
22.
How big a vehicle, how many, or?
It's, 1 ton dump trucks, dump trailers. I mean, I turned that in.
Most everything you can get in there.
Yeah.
Fit on the scale.
Well, then I could take the 14-foot dump trucks full of building material.
You still dump that outside?
Yeah. Well, I don't take dump trucks.
Right.
So, but yes, all the building material goes outside.
I remember when we talked last, the rates went up on
That, yeah.
moving the dumpsters too, right? To switch them out.
Yes, that's part of the price increase every June. With the prices that I gave you after calling, it looks like most places, including landfills, have a minimum rate. So, about the cheapest that you could go, would be the transfer station off of 9th Street in Lafayette. There's a minimum rate of $22.50. So if you up the truckload price to 35, instead of going from 25 to 35, factor in gas, they're about gonna be paying the same.
Right. Just the dump it here and then going off it.
Right.
Looks like the addition of the scale would be benefit, the sooner we get in, the better benefit it will give us.
I mean, I agree with that.
General public, too.
So next year, we need to put that in our
get it in somewhere.
Get it, well, we can put it in our budget, I think, couldn't we? To get the scales for the building.
Or if we're doing the budget or in cap.
Yeah.
Could do anything. You can also ask for an additional if you need to do it this
We
year.
probably have it in the queue, yeah, do it.
You just still have to ask for an additional, so.
Get that estimate to Beth, to present it in front of the council.
Current estimate.
Okay, you'll be in come back out?
Because if we can do that, we can save a lot of guesswork, and I think we can actually make it support itself.
Yeah, I agree.
But we're still gonna be in the hole because you got the sheriff's department dumps out there, you got the highway takes
That
stuff
was
out
my
there.
other
dump.
thing too, I mean, I got the cemeteries dumping out there where I'm not allowed to charge, I have,
Who says that?
well, that was brought up. Bill called me and said, don't charge the cemeteries a couple times a year, several months ago.
I don't know anything about
Well, and then you have the different departments, I mean, that
Right.
use it maybe only once a year, but,
Right. Well, see, for, you know, to change all that, everybody would have to put money in their budgets to dump. To me, it's a service to the taxpayers, you know, instead of
Right.
having it on the side of the road, it's, you know.
and the highway, I mean, they may come in once a month sometimes, more than that, but I mean,
All right, depends on what they find on the side of the road.
yeah.
Cause I don't wanna ask them to put it in their budget, you know.
Not for stuff we don't know.
Right.
Should we share it all?
Yeah.
Should have that, but we need it.
Right.
Make sure your estimate's complete for, I want the maximum cost, what it would be.
So did you ever see the first estimate with Polk scale then?
No, ma'am, I did not. If you gave it to me, I probably misplaced it in my pile of paperwork. I just-
When are you talking about?
That one from last year?
When you,
Or no, the beginning of the year?
Northwest Solid Waste came in?
No, Polk scale, where we made copies and it itemized it, and then you just have to take off the cement work because the cement work wouldn't be
Well, they
needed.
would have gotten anything that you presented. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I probably had it, I just didn't recall it. Have them come back and give an updated estimate, then we can get it in front of the council, see if we can get it. All we can do is ask. But in the meantime, we need to raise our rates.
And
Because-
I agree, it's been, almost 5 years.
I know they talked about it on a meeting I missed the first of the year, and I thought they increased it then, but I guess it was tabled and never brought back up.
I would like with that though, if we're gonna raise rates, to have the appropriate funds to change the signs, because right now I don't, and so I'm duct taping over, from certain things. Which, in the elements, the price wears off and then I'm the
Can you
one
help with
that.
that, Paul?
Yeah, we can make signs up for,
Yeah, we had told.
we can do that.
That was at that last meeting, we did tell you the highway can make signs.
Okay.
So, current rates,
I need to
This
say
is perfect.
something about the additional, when I said that for this year, you need to get it to the council by the 17th for them to approve it,
for the,
to be advertised, and then for the November meeting, because then additionals are not done in December.
right,
So, you're on a time frame.
can you get it by the 17th to the council? And we'll ask for that additional amount?
To be
I'll call them
advertised.
today.
Do we need a motion in that? To do that?
Oh. Is she gonna go to the council before you meet again?
Right, more or less,
Yes, we should.
on the amount we're
Take
looking
a
for.
motion to, request the director to submit an amount that you request the council to consider an addition.
For the scale.
Yes.
Do we need to get more than one estimate? Is there more than one out there?
I'm sure it's not, how much was it?
22?
She said 22.
So, I
Okay,
mean, it's entirely up to you, but legally, no.
okay, well, if you're comfortable with those,
I'll call them today.
is that your motion?
That's one motion.
So we have a motion on the floor to have the director to inquire about a scale estimate, to get it turned in, to present in front of the council for the 17th, for an addition. second that motion. All in favor? Aye. In the meantime, 2020 proposed rates increase. All trash bags, regardless of size, would be $3. Truckload compactables, $35 minimum. Non-compactable would be $70.
Which is the same now, I just kept that the same.
Okay. Shingles will be $20 a square. How do you know how many square they get?
The bundle, I can usually eyeball it.
Okay. Your eyeball's better than mine. Burn barrels, $20 full, $10 half. Mattresses, 10, 15, 20, and 25. That range from twin to king. Box springs, $5. Couches, 3-piece sectionals, 25. Couch with recliners is 20. And are we gonna start taking money for some of the recycling areas too, to help out? Like the TVs and stuff like that?
I don't think they're changing anything when it comes to that. Well, I guess we could, but the district is still gonna pick up that cost starting at the first deal.
Right.
I mean, if you wanna charge for TVs,
I think we should, because they're starting to get to the point where everybody's starting to switch out their old ones and.
my only fear is I'll see Paul more with them on the side of the road.
Well, I mean, they charge you at HX Greg and everyone else to take them. I'm on that board up there, I'll talk to them, we'll wait on that. Are you good with these changes?
Well, generate more revenue. If we go to the scale, will that eliminate a lot of this stuff, right?
It'll eliminate all of it.
Yeah, we
Because
can
then you
charge
could just
for-
virtually go off, okay,
It's in my
It's-
location.
yeah, this much per pound. So anything in a truckload or a trailer, it just goes strictly off the pound. Instead of piece by piece. So if you have a king size wet mattress that's been sitting outside for 2 weeks, you're gonna pay more for it with what you charge a pound.
Right. Cause in all, we'll end up paying more the way we're doing it now. Unless you wanna squeeze it down before you throw it in.
I suppose.
Josh, you have a question?
What's the price we pay per pound to Waste Management?
We do a price per ton.
Yeah, it's ton trash.
They just raised it, it's $84.53 a ton. Now with that, I could try to find somebody else to pull it after, if we don't proceed with scales. However, the problem would be Waste Management is owns the majority of the landfills. So you could pay somebody else to come take my trash, but ultimately they're gonna dump it at a Waste Management landfill, which is going to be charged, I'd probably be charged more.
More, you would be.
So, they kinda got me, I mean,
Yeah.
in that sense.
You wanna
but-
start a landfill, now, get that.
Oh, yeah.
You wanna start a landfill, Paul? I don't, not Carroll County.
Just a point of information.
It's a moneymaker.
You need to do this in 2 steps. You just got the proposed rates in front of you right now. You should really not do this until the next meeting. I don't know if the last rate increase was done with an ordinance amending our fees. It should be done by an ordinance amending our fees. And I don't have an ordinance for you to do that today, but you wanna be able to consider public input. And, at a future meeting, it could be the next meeting or the meeting after that, whatever you wish. So, but you could entertain a motion to propose to increase the rates as recommended by the director, and ask the auditor to put it on the agenda for whatever meeting you want to put it on. That doesn't mean you're adopting these proposed rates. In fact, you may change them, increase them, decrease them, add different rates and so forth.
Possibly increase the rates as recommended by the director. Transfer station.
Yes, sure.
transfer station. Got it ready by the 17th for public input. All in favor, say aye. Oh, I second that first, didn't I? Alright. Anything else, young lady? Anybody got questions for the transfer? Yes.
Where we at financially at the landfill this year? We talked about it earlier this year. Are we, a lot of money this year? Gain money?
Well, I got a phone call from one of the council members, who says that we're probably gonna be in the negative with the new price rate coming up, but I don't think we got all of our figures brought in yet, because last year we only spent 7,500 out of everything that the county had to pay for the land. To me, that's not bad for.
So that the taxpayers had to pay 7,500, but yet we also dumped trash to the other place that we would have to pay elsewhere, so that might not be too bad.
Right.
But I got a question on that though, does that include do I have to break even on my employee benefits that the county offers me?
That would be up to the council.
Okay.
I'd say no, but we don't break even on anything else, so.
But if we didn't have landfill, we'd have to pay to take county's trash lot up someplace else. What would that cost?
A lot.
Well, the transfer station off of 9th Street is the cheapest, and that's $22.50 minimum. If you take it to a landfill, like Cass County's a $66 minimum. So if you have one white kitchen bag, they're charging you $66. Plaska's, they have a scale. I think they're at 6 cents a pound. Clinton County, Cass County's $55 minimum. Clinton County, which would be Frankfurt, which is the closest, would be $66 minimum.
We still gotta get it there to keep it.
Right.
And if we have the scales, we can, so like if we said it's 8 cents a pound, we can charge 9 cents a pound just to help cover some of the expenses, electricity and stuff out there. To help.
You think you get a scale where we have to be compared to the other landfills around, we, you know, like maybe 20% higher than anybody else. We could probably make it worthwhile, but 20% higher, if we get 40% higher, it might not work so well.
Yeah, we'll have to be competitive. I think we're on the right track. We just have to follow the steps.
This year has been, the numbers are, it's been.
Well, with Delphi canceling their recycling, we went way up. All right, anything else? All right, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Paul?
Morning. Two things for you today. I wanted to bring you up to date on our road improvements that we've got done for this year.
Do we have one, Bill?
It includes everything that we did, as well as what is being done by a couple of contractors. I gave you a map just to show you where all the roads are located. You've seen it before. There are a few what we call bonus roads I put on the list. I didn't give you the whole list like I had before, but bonus roads are basically this year when we were chip and sealing. You've got to take a tanker load of oil, and so at the end of the day, if you got your road done, then the question is, what do we do with the rest of the oil? Well, this year we got 7 miles of extra roads in order to get that tanker empty. Now, these were roads that were close by, were marginal, and that they were starting to get some cracks in them a little bit. And so it was a good thing that we did the roads that we did do. So basically, the final grand total for us doing chip and seal was 76.5 miles of road. Then when I did,